So Saturday I went to the pagan Pride Festival, and I had such an amazing time. Like, I love pagan people, man. Because I think to me, my experience with pagan people, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a pagan person, but I think that pagan people are some of the nicest people in America. They really are. They are the least judgmental people. No one's perfect, we know that, but to me, they are the least judgmental people in America. And I just have a great time because I feel like those are my people, and I feel like I love being around my people to the point that when I left, I felt sad because I felt like I'm not going to see these people till next year. Even though I know people get together and people hang out and people do full moon rituals and so on and so forth. There's a viable, pagan community in Denver and everything. I personally don't reach out to those communities because I'm very super introvert, and I tend to like keep to myself and everything. So I know if the option is there, but also with that being said, there's also this fickleness in these pagan communities that's very sporadic, where there's no centralized base. So a lot of times it's more like word of mouth. It's more like having family members that are part of certain groups and so on and so forth, in order to be in close conjunction with this pagan community in Denver and everything. Which a lot of the pagan people in Denver I know for many, many, many years. As long as I lived, the whole time I lived in Denver, actually in Colorado, I know these people and everything, and they just been around forever and and it's pretty awesome and everything. And I was thinking to myself, I was so prompt to make a video blog and talk about what it means to be like a pagan person, because I think a lot of people don't know, they're not really familiar with a pagan person is. They kind of know the word and so on and so forth. They're familiar with it, but they don't really know what it entails and everything. And it's a very serious thing, for a lot of people. And a lot of people, like for me, I feel like being a pagan saved my life. It really did, because I grew up in New York City, and I remember, I don't go that much these days, but I always been, been part of the goth subculture in Denver, but I never really quite saw myself as a gothic person or a goth person, because the goth subculture is actually a subculture of music and aesthetic. That's basically what it is. That's not to say that it's not deeper than that, but for most people, that's what it is and everything. And it's a cool place to congregate, to be around like-minded people who are like themselves, and everything, and share and bond with people and everything. Um, but that's what it is. And for me, being a so-called goth, I guess, always been about being a pagan. It always been about being an earth person, and that's why it's so easy for me to hang out with hippies, and it's so easy for me to be a tree hugger, because people who are Wiccans, people who are pagans, they very, very nature oriented. They are controlled by nature. They are obsessed with nature. Nature is the totality of who they are as humans on Earth. Is nature people. And I think that goths who go to clubs, who are very urban, who are really entrenched in the aesthetic and in the music, they not as rapture about nature as the Wiccans and the pagan people. So it's kind of two different subcultures and everything. But that's not to say that you can't combine it and you can't find both types of people interchangeable with each other. Because you go to any golf club, there's going to be a few pagans in the golf club who are also goths. And I guess you could argue the point that I always been both. I always loved the aesthetic. I always been a dancer. I always been into the music, but I always been more so entrenched with nature, and that's why it was so easy for me to congregate and hang out with hippies. I have a lot of hippie friends that I hang out with because I understand their love of nature and everything, and but I consider myself kind of like a dark, spooky hippie, if you will, for lack of a better word, because I have all the desires that hippie people have, and the inspiration that they have, but I also have the darkness, which they disregard the darkness to be in this realm of consistent light, and I don't. I kind of like do it sometimes, but then, and mostly in the summer and the spring, but then when fall comes and winter, I go into this dark realm, which I find beauty and comfort and love in this dark world. It's really beautiful and everything. So, and also, when I first got into like, you know, gothic stuff, it was via the Wiccan. I was a Wiccan first, before anything, and for a long time, before I even knew what it meant, even before I even went to a goth club, I was a Wiccan. And in New York City, when I was like 13 or 14 or even young, I was really young and so, and I stumbled across this store called Esoterica's, and it was a magic store, it was a witchcraft store, and there was this other store, I don't quite remember the name of the other store, but I would go to that store. And that store was owned by goth witches. They wore all black and they were really spooky looking, and they owned that. And I loved that. Enchantments, that's the name of that store, Enchantments. And I think it's still in New York City, it's still around, but it's one of the oldest pagan stores in America. I think it would have been around since the 60s or something, but it's an old store. And I would buy all my books there, and I would do all my studying, and then I would go to like, they had these lectures there, and I would go to the lectures and everything, and I had a Wiccan girlfriend, and that was my first introduction to it. And it was not a long stretch because I grew up Catholic, and you know anything about being a Catholic is very pagan, the Catholic religion, so getting into like deities and all these different things and everything it wasn't that far removed from being Catholic, and it was easy for me to embrace and everything. But it saved my life, because I grew up in New York and I could have been influenced to other things. It wasn't as organic as that scene was, or natural and stuff. I could have got into drugs, I could have done this, but I chose to be like more of a earth-based natural person and everything, and it saved my life and everything. And so that's what I wanted to like talk about, because I think like it's a very transformative, life changing thing to like be a pagan person. It really is. And like I prefaced earlier by saying that pagan people, I think, are the nicest people in America. And I was thinking to myself, why, and then I was thinking about all this political stuff that's going on, this polarizing stuff, the election and so on and so forth. And I think that those people are the very opposite of pagan people, actually, political. And I'm talking about on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats. They are the very opposite of what a pagan person tries to inspire to be and everything, and it's scary to me and everything, because those are the people who run society. Those are the people that influence society. And so when I went to the pagan festival, and I go, well, this makes sense that people don't support this festival, that people don't go to this festival and don't think that they can get anything out of it, which I think that if people would let their guard down and be more vulnerable and and go to this festival, they could have a life changing experience. If they could be around people who, families, that embrace the earth, and parents and fathers and mothers who teach their children to be open minded, to be accepting, and to believe in magic and everything, the world will be a much better place. And by no stretch, pagan people are perfect. They're just humans, and they just into a certain thing that they love and everything. But I think the aspiration that's in their heart is really conducive of a more healthy existence on Earth via magic, and everything. And I think it's so beautiful and everything. So I was like, well, where does that kindness come from? Where does that open mindedness comes from? And I realized it comes from a couple of places. One of the places is just being natural, and when you're a natural person, you become more childlike, you become more playful. And when you become more childlike and more playful, you're less judgmental, because you don't have your mind filled with all these misleading notions about other people. So you tend to take people on face value, and you tend to like accept people and stuff, and you don't question why they are the way they are. And if you look at politics, it's so polarized in how Democrats view Republicans and how Republicans view Democrats. It's 110% visual. It's all about what they see and their presentation of what they think is the reality of what they see. And that's how politics, man, that's how pop culture is too. If you look at pop culture and look at pop music, it's all the worship of that. It's all the worship of image. It's all the worship of these misconceived notions of what people think is reality based on their subjective experience, their subjective reasoning of what they're viewing, that's basically what it is and stuff. So it's kind of like, it's scary to me because that is like, there's only 3% of society are pagan people, and the rest, like 98%, is just other people, and that's really, got me thinking about that. I was thinking about, well, what does it mean to be pagan, and why more people are not pagan? Obviously, the promotion of pop culture and the promotion of the political stratosphere, promotes the decline of that. I mean, it promotes something else, and that something else makes a decline this other place, and this is something that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. You look at like the witch trials, and you look at, you know, um, what pagan really entails. If you think about the word pagan, it means pagadus, and pagadus is an old English word. It means country dweller. So basically, pagan people, the word pagan was a derogatory term. They don't designate it a person that lived in a country who wasn't exposed to the so-called sophisticated religion, the urbanized sophisticated religion, which at that time was Christianity, which still is Christianity, and that was considered the religion of the urban, modern, stinking person and everything. And then, so they view the people who lived in the country as being unthinking people who were, ignorant, because they believed in the earth, and they believed in the goddess, and they believed in trees, and they believed in fairies and everything, and so they try to spoon feed them this false utopian notion of this divinity that was very male oriented, that was very strict and very judgmental and very uncaring towards our exploration of who we are as a species and everything. And so that's why you see that polarized right now in politics right now. You see that with the Christian white nationalist movement have been gaining, ground in America for like the last 20 years and everything. It's sad to me and everything. And when I was at this pagan festival, I was thinking to myself, I was like, wow, imagine if, Democrats and Republicans all became pagan and everything, and just felt like, they think being, judging people, they believe in the witch's creed, which says don't judge or lest you be judged, which is also Jesus actually said that too and everything. Um, and I think that if people follow that in their heart and follow the comic law of cause and effect, they will believe in karma, and they would just try to be kind, and so I was thinking about that and everything, and I was just like, I wish more people would have went to this pagan festival, because it could have been life changing. Could be life changing for certain people, if they see the beauty in it.